Hello and welcome to this webinar. If you're joining us now, we'd like to welcome you all for joining us online today. We have about 30 people online. Let's hang on a couple of minutes to see how many more people are actually going to be turning up, and we can get started. We have some exciting insights to share today with our 19 researchers from Ethiopia, Nigeria, Senegal, and Sudan, and they're really looking forward to sharing what they have been able to find out from the classroom action research with all of you. Okay, so without further ado, hello and welcome to our webinar today on the topic of exploring gender in the African classroom. We are really excited to have you all here today and engage in this important conversation. My name is Steve, and I'll be your host for today's sessions. And we have an impressive lineup of 19 teachers and teacher educators from Ethiopia, Senegal, Nigeria, and Sudan who will be sharing their insight and experiences on this interesting topic. But before we begin, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items to ensure that this webinar runs smoothly for everyone. Firstly, let's ensure that your microphone is muted throughout the sessions to avoid any background noise. So you can unmute yourself if you wish to ask a question during the Q&A session later on at the end of the presentations. You can also please ensure that your camera is turned up to avoid any distractions during the presentation. And thirdly, we have a Q&A session toward the end of the webinar. So feel free to type your questions in the chat, in the Q&A box throughout the presentation. So we'll do our best to address as many questions as possible during the Q&A session. I'm actually joined today by Paola, who will be also sharing the work that she has been able to do with the team of researchers today. Paola, over to you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. We are here to describe a little bit what our journey has been over the last couple of months. Just to tell you a little bit what you're going to see here and who the people that are here are and what they have done. I want to take you through the entire project. So this is a project in which we have mentored a group of 19 teachers from 4 different countries, Nigeria, Sudan, Ethiopia, and Senegal, to do exploratory action research, particularly in the topic of gender education. So they met for the first time in October of last year, and they had an initial workshop, which was about the topic of exploratory action research, and then about the topic of gender education. And the idea of that session was that they were able to choose a topic, an area of challenges in that area, and then they would plan a research in their classroom, a research project in their classroom. It has been a wonderful journey. We have been together doing this research, supporting teachers, and teachers have been doing an amazing job in trying to understand the situation in their classrooms with the help of their mentors. So this is who we are, and that is the image that you have there. These are all the mentors that have supported the teachers throughout this journey. You have Teresa at the bottom here, she's in Kenya and has been mentoring teachers that are based in Senegal. And then this Sarah here, she has been mentoring teachers in Nigeria. She is from Nigeria. She's not only a mentor, but she's also a researcher, because last year she was part of the program as well. So since this is the second year of the program, and she showed her capabilities of being a good mentor and a researcher. She became mentors for her colleagues. The same for Ali. He's based in Ethiopia. He went through this process last year, so he became a mentor. And there at the end, here at the bottom, last but not least, we have Mayara. She is based in Sudan, and she also supported her colleagues in this process. So we have all been involved in supporting the teachers along the way, okay? Now, who are the teachers? This is what matters. These are the stars of the show today. They did an amazing job for months, and it is difficult to do research like this, not only because it's a new topic, gender education, that some people are not familiarized with, but also it's a new skill. It's a new process. They are teachers, they're used to teaching, but this is researching. So they were learning and carrying out the research at the same time, but they did an amazing job. So these are the 19 teachers that are going to be presenting their work today. Now, one thing that I would like to explain to you is so that you understand the process. Could you show the next slide, Steve? So that you understand the process. They've been through this process of exploratory action research that is starting in October, where they first selected a topic that they wanted to explore. They explored the situation, they gathered data, they came up with findings, and then they applied an action plan to try to address the situation. So this is what they've been through all this time. And finally, this is what you're going to see. Next slide, Steve. So what you're going to see is a presentation in the form of videos. So these are video recordings of them presenting, showing their posters. These are some of the posters that they have created. And throughout their posters, what they're going to do, they're going to take us through the research journey. What was their topic, what it is that they found out, and what it is that they did, and whether that had any impact in their classrooms, okay? So that is all from me. This is what you're going to be listening to today. So I really hope you enjoy it. Over to you, Steve.
Thanks a lot, Paula. Thanks for just sharing the work that you have been able to do with a great team of researchers. We're really thrilled to welcome all our speakers today. And we've actually grouped them in, in teams. So we have Team Ethiopia, Team Nigeria, Team Senegal, and Team Sudan. So I'll be playing these videos without further ado. So welcome Team Ethiopia to the virtual stage as we begin to explore gender in the African classroom.
Just an additional comment for some people that have been raising their hand and may have a question. There is going to be a Q&A session at the end. So after everything is finished, we are going to allow for questions. So if you do have questions that come up during the presentation, please write them down in the Q&A section button, so that then we can address them at the end. Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot. I'm going to play.
I'm going to give you a short and precise summary of the explanatory action research conducted at the Lachin Primary School here in Addis Ababa, capital of Ethiopia. My question was, how can I improve the participation of my female students in a speaking lesson? Because I'm teaching a grade 12 student. When I'm comparing the participation of those female students with their male mates, their participation was not good. So that's why I ask myself, how can I improve the participation? So the explanatory action research question were improving the participation of my female student in a speaking lesson in order to have some basic information or data about the problem. I've used questionnaire, peer observation, and then reflective journal methods in order to collect the data. And then the question I was asking were knowing their favorite speaking lessons, the action and the activity they do while they have a kind of speaking activity, and then what were the most difficult activity in a speaking session or lesson, why do they did not participate highly, same as to their male friends, etc. were the question. And then as the information I have get from the questionnaire, the observation, and the reflective journal, mostly because of lack of vocabulary, and then a fear of doing mistakes, especially fear of conducting structurally incorrect sentences, and that's why they have a kind of less participation in the speaking lesson and activity. Then I was planning to let them have a vocabulary notebook, and then I try to give them 8 lessons or 8 weeks lesson, prepare a focused group, and then I let them to bring the title to their home, and then bring their own vocabulary lists, and then study the vocabulary list, because they fear presentation and then debate, and then a full class presentation, and then speaking session. So that's why I let them try to be on their small groups, try to use a peer group mechanisms to have a presentation, and then I try to motivate them to do mistakes, because students need to make mistakes. So that's why they start to remove the fear they have in order to commit mistakes. So they try to have a speaking lesson. I use them teaching aid and then postures. I let them to describe teaching aid and the lessons, and then I let them to bring lessons to home, and then come back by being familiar. I have tried to choose or select up-to-date lessons. So that's why dramatically the participation of my female students were changed. Yeah? How did I know that? I tried to use focused group and then peer observation in order to check whether I succeed or not. So the matter is not about sex. Being female is not a problem. The problem is, at least we need a bit work in order to improve the participation of my female students. So by doing such things, the participation of my female students will dramatically change. So in order to improve some sort of problems regarding with gender, especially regarding with females, we need to do a bit or a little things. So their participation were highly improved. In my cases, their fear were removed. I'm not talking about 100%. They start to participate the same as to their mates, but there were progresses. As my colleague told me, there is highly improvement or highly change. They try to easily make mistakes. They are not afraid of doing mistakes. They have a lot of vocabulary on some specific lessons.
My name is Etiana Osri. I live at Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I have been graduated Debre Birhan University, Master of Biology. I have 12 years experience teaching in biology at Dilachin General Secondary School. I taught grade 12 students. I am professional teaching in biology. In our schools, I observed gender inequality. So select one title that I do action researches. My action research title is Promoting Gender Equality in the Classroom. This action research title, there are selecting 3 key exploratory action research question. 1. What is gender equality for me? 2. What is the strategy I do in class to promoting gender equality? 3. What do students think of the technique I use to promote gender equality in classroom? These 3 exploratory action research questions, there are different data collections. 1. Reflective journal. 2. Pre-observation. 3. Focus group discussion. This data collection based, my finding is my male learners assume themselves to be superior and they see their female classmates as inferior. 2. My female learners do not participate in the classroom. 3. My students are uncomfortability sitting next to people of the opposite gender. 4. I don't explain the rule and regulation of our schools about gender equality. These 3 are action plans or my finding points. So I have action plan or implementation. I proposed to change my students' negative thinking about their female classmate by provide advice on gender issue. 2. I will implement classroom activities that promoting gender equality. So this action plan is implemented by 3 evaluation tools. 1. Pre-observation. 2. Focusing group. Focusing group means I will divide my students into 4 or 5 mixed groups. Pre-observation, I will divide the lesson in different sessions. So give a chance or to observe my colleagues and my the last one is what is the result of our action plan implementation. 1. I omitted gender inequality in classrooms. That means to minimize female and male student interactions in our classes. Another, female students are participation and representative in our classes, male and female students. 2. Seating arrangement is not based on gender or sex. That means mixed seating arrangements. And their projects work in share their idea. Female and male students are equally participation in classrooms and do their assignment or projects. Thank you for this our presentation or our explanation or promoting gender equality in classroom.
Hello everyone, this is Belai from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I am an English teacher by profession and I am here to briefly present my action research today, and my research topic is how to increase male and female student interaction in the classroom. So to do this, as a researcher, I have been doing a lot in my classroom with my colleagues and different stakeholders among my school. So to start with this very important topic, which touches the area of gender, and it has just taught me a lot. So coming to the research problem that I have addressed was the seating arrangement. As an English teacher, I have observed the problem of seating arrangement in the first place. So the seating arrangement of male and female students were wrongly assigned. So the other is the English teacher teaching methodology by itself is another problem. And the other one is the gender-related issue. These are the poor teaching method, the seating arrangement, and the gender-related issues and culture with a major problem in this action research. The basic research question is how can I organize my students in a way that they can understand better in my English classroom environment? And that's the first question. That the other one is how male and the female students contribute a lot for English classroom and how they are actively interacting in the classroom. The other one is how is the teaching method? Is it engaging and it is friendly for the kids? That is the area that I need to answer. Coming to the data collection tools, the tools were like focus group discussion and observation is the major tool that I use for this explanatory action research. Major finding that I have observed is there is the teaching methodology gap. There is cultural problem that just lag behind girls students not actively to engage with boys, and boys and girls were not participating in a good way. And the seating arrangement is also another problem there. Coming to what I have done to solve the problem, the first thing I did was gathering information from colleagues, from the student, and from different stakeholders I've gathered. So directly coming to the class, I try to just see the seating arrangement as a problem. And the other one is I have also observed that students are not able to actively participate with their opposite sexes. So I have created awareness and prepared different teaching methods like drama, group work, pair work, and so on. Coming to the action after identification of my learners, I have tried to decide to prepare different extracurricular activities for my kids. Coming to the teachers are also, the evaluation tools are also, I've mentioned the FGD observation and peer-to-peer supervision and so on were just done. It has just what changed in the finding of the research. It has really changed us all in the way we think. We all English teacher try to see things in different way after this explanatory action research. Our students are now interacting. The sitting arrangement is best. There is no difference, that huge difference between male and the female students. They are doing dialogue. They are conducting their activities together, and they are participating in different extracurricular and co-curricular activities. So with this explanatory action research really changed the way teachers are thinking, and we are very thankful. Thank you a lot.
Awesome. Thanks, Team Ethiopia, with some insightful findings. So what we're going to do next is we move to Team Nigeria. I will be sharing their own unique experiences and insight on this topic. So let's welcome Team Nigeria onto the virtual platform.
My name is Ahmed Olalekan Lawal. I'm a teacher at Almond College, Lagos, Nigeria. My research centered on my Year 9 JSS 3 students with an average age of 13. I got triggered to research aspects of gender differences in my class English textbook and investigate the perception of my students about these differences. As a result of this, I guided my research with the following exploratory research questions. 1. What do I think about references to gender differences identified in the selected test? 2. What do my students think about references to gender differences identified in the selected text they read? 3. What references to gender differences do I identify in the selected text? To answer this first research question, I used my reflective journal. In the second research question, I used a close-ended questionnaire and an essay test to find out what my students think about references to gender differences as identified in the selected textbook. And in the third research question, I do an analysis of the selected English textbook, identifying aspects of gender differences in the passage, content, images, and exercises in it. After all these explorations, I found out that the selected textbook for my Year 9 learners contains images that misrepresented the female and the male genders in topics like chosen careers, roles, and games, and also there was no supplementary materials to balance these gender-based differences while I was teaching the topic. The majority of my students were gender biased. For instance, none of the boys except one chose to be a nurse. In order to moderate these findings, I carried out the following action plans for a period of 4 weeks. In week 1, the first action plan was on designing gender-neutral instructional materials. In week 2, the action plan was on engaging students in gender-balanced activities and roles such as girls racing and riding a bicycle, and males skipping and singing, among others. In week 3, the third action plan was on inviting resource persons such as male nurses and female lawyers to address the students on why these professions are for both genders. And finally, in week 4, revisions, exhibitions, interview, and assessment was carried out. In order to measure how impactful these action plans were on my research findings, I reused the questionnaires as post-tests and asked my students some semi-structured interview questions. At the end of the evaluation, I discovered that the supplementary instructional materials made the learners understand their domestic roles, sport activities, and career choices without bias. From the interview with my students, they all agreed that nursing is a profession for both male and females. This research journey has significantly influenced my understanding of gender issues relating to my classroom, textbook resources, and my students. Having researched textbook and instructional materials, I understand that textbook resources play a significant role in addressing gender issues. And finally, I have also learned that inviting professionals from different fields, both male and females, can positively influence the career choices of the students. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Christiana Ijoma Ajabs, a Nigerian. I'm a chief lecturer at the Federal College of Education Technical at Koka, Lagos, Nigeria, where I teach English to a group of students who are young adults. And precisely, I use the 200 level science students for this research. And what motivated this exploratory classroom action research is that I observed in my class that most of the female students are usually very reluctant to participate in class. So I decided to interrogate it, and I came up with a topic, effect of gender on class participation. And I worked with the following four research questions. What do I want to see happening in my class as regards male-female participation? Why is inclusive participation important to me? 3, what do my students think or feel about disparity in class participation? And what do my colleagues think or feel about disparity in class participation? So I use the reflective journal questionnaire, which I administered to my students, 50 of them. An interview, I interviewed some of my colleagues to generate data for this study. And my main findings are that female students are reluctant to participate in class because they do not want to be mocked. And that disparity in class participation is not the fault of my students, rather it is as a result of the gender biases and stereotypes they come to class with. Then disparity in class participation is not peculiar to my students. It happens to my colleagues too. And teachers encourage gender disparity through favoritism and some other things they do in class. So based on these findings, I came up with the action plans which I implemented over a period of 4 weeks. And these action plans are: 1, I missed seating arrangement. Initially, my students used to sit the boys at the back, girls in front. But this time around, I decided to mix them to sit together. Then I provided effective communication skills before each lesson. I also provided comprehension passages about female role models, which they read and discussed before each lesson. Then I evaluated my action plan with peer observation. I got my colleagues to come observe and give me feedback, and then questionnaires to the students to get their own impression about the new things happening in class. So the results of these action plans are, I noticed that participation greatly improved. Even the very shy students kind of began to come out from their shells. I saw them participating, even taking turns to speak, and actually maintaining eye contact with their listeners. I was quite impressed. So it's a very good exercise. So what I've learned from this study is that as teachers, we need to be very observant in our classes. We also need to be reflective. If we notice anything we do not like in our class, we got to interrogate it and provide solution to it. Secondly, I've noticed that societal problems can also be solved starting from the classroom. Thank you very much.
My name is Kikelomo Olushola Adeniyi. I teach at the Lagos State University of Education, Nigeria. My research was carried out on senior secondary school, 3 students that are of an average age of 16. I got fascinated to work on this research project because I observed over the years that most often than not, my male students performed better in their writing task than the female ones. As a result of that, I worked on 3 exploratory research questions. 1, how often did I generate differences in the choice of words between male and female students? 2, how often do students manifest differences in choice of words in their writing task? And 3, what do students think about the different choices of words using their writing task? To answer these questions, I did a pretest. I also did a focus group discussion with the students. I went ahead to analyze my data, and my findings are that the male students perform better in the writing task. Apart from that, I also realized I needed to support my female students in the use of vocabulary and their expressive skills. To address this situation, to put an end to the problem, I implemented the following actions: oral drills / discussion on writing activities, a feedback activity that allowed the female students to check the write-ups of the male ones and vice versa. We also examined the write-ups of some selected female writers. I paid more attention to the female students so as to help them to improve and meet up with their male counterparts. To evaluate the impact of my action plans, I gave a post-test. I also had a focus group period with them, a focus group activity with the learners. Observed at the end of the action plan that the learners, especially the female ones, wrote better. They found it easier to write more content. Their sense of reasoning improved, and the essays were better organized. I realized that I also needed to ensure more practice exercises to facilitate further improvement. In all, I was able to learn that action research is a good method of identifying the challenges that exist in the class and how to put an end to such challenges. I've realized that my female students, can be made to write better if I expose them to more action plans that will assist them. Thank you.
My name is Rashida Sadiq, and I teach at ICIC Al Nur Academy, Abuja, Nigeria. My current learners are 10-year-olds in year 5, and I noticed at the beginning of the session that it seemed that the male learners were not as fluent in reading as the female learners. So I decided to carry out a research on the differences between the male and female learners in reading fluency. I asked myself the following questions. Number 1, what were my expectations from the male and female learners in regards to reading fluency? Number 2, how did the male and female learners feel about reading? Number 3, how often did the male learners and female learners read? And finally, I asked myself, what did my colleagues think of the fluency of male and female learners? Now, to do this, I got some data collection tools which I used to find the answers. The first one was a questionnaire which was filled by the learners. The second one was my reflective journal where I wrote down my thoughts and my expectations. And the final one was a focus group with 7 of my colleagues ranging from nursery 3 all the way up to SS3. I was able to identify the following key findings. First of all, male and female learners love to read. However, the female learners read more frequently than the male. I also noticed that the female learners were more fluent readers, but not due to a skill gap, as I earlier thought, but due to the fact that they were more confident and not shy of coming out, as opposed to most of the male learners. Finally, I realized that the female learners read with better expression than the male learners and love print material more. I instituted some actions, which included explicitly teaching reading skills such as inferencing, making connections, identifying the main idea. I also decided to have mixed gender partners in the classroom. So I had pairs with both male and female read to each other before they had to come up to read in front of the entire class or before they had to do the task for the day. Finally, I also gave guided questions to help with their comprehension, and I made sure that they had books to take home weekly, which they came in to review at the end of the week. This action took place for 4 weeks, and I evaluated using 2 tools. The first one was my observation reflection journal, which I kept throughout the period and took records on a weekly basis. The second was a focus group made up of the learners, which happened at the end of the 4 weeks. I got a lot of useful pieces of information and came to the following general conclusions. The first conclusion was that explicitly teaching and practicing the reading strategies really improved engagement, especially in mixed gender groupings. The second thing I noticed was that both male and female learners improved in their confidence because they had mixed gender pairings before they came out to read. The final thing I noticed was that the guided questions were really helpful to aid comprehension, but I need to give them some more time to create their own questions that they can use. Also, we were not able to complete our reviews on a weekly basis. So going forward, I would have each child review on a fortnightly basis. I was really impressed by the children and their maturity and their ability to share their ideas and their thoughts and their ability to actually use the skills they were taught within such a short time and show how much they had improved and how much they were willing to improve. I hope to continue with the strategies, and I hope to be able to do more exploratory and action research in my classes in future. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. My name is Dorcas Amayo Barnabas from Nigeria. I am a teacher educator from Kaduna State College of Education, Gidanwaya. This research was carried out with SC1 students of the Department of English, Group C, of ages 17 to 20 years old. What originated this research was my students' inability to speak well in the class, especially the boys. But after the research, they had more confidence to speak better. This research prompted the following questions. 1, what do I think about the difference in speaking ability among female and male learners? 2, what do my colleagues think are the causes of deficiency in speaking ability among female and male learners in the class? 3, how do boys and girls participate in speaking ability activities? 4, what strategies or activities do you do in class in relation to speaking activities or speaking ability among boys and girls? In order to get answers to these questions, the following methods were applied. 1, reflective journal. This is from my own perspective. As a teacher, I have to keenly observe my students during the teaching, the speaking activities in the class to know whether they can speak well or not. 2, the classroom observation. Here I invited some of my colleagues to come and observe my students in the classroom during the class activities, which I asked them to speak one after the other according to their sex interchangeably. And the following people participated. Mr. Great Carriers, Mrs. Diana Sorki, Miss Abasekan, Mrs. Antonia, and Mr. Edward Baita. 3. Interview. Most of the questions were asked during the interview, and my students participated in the interview and some of my colleagues. And those colleagues are Mr. Ishaku Bahago, Ms. Victoria Silas, Ms. Rose Joseph, Mr. Julius John, Mr. Nathan Abiri, Mrs. Rita Likita, Mr. Gibek, and Mr. Hazan Adamu. These people were really great and they participated well. Thank you all. It took me about 3 weeks to implement this method. After gathering the data, my findings were: 1, the girls tend to speak better than the boys because the boys are distracted and they lack confidence to speak for the fear of being laughed at. Number 2, poor background, environmental influence, and lack of exposure leads to deficiency in the speaking ability of the boys than the girls. 3, the boys find pronunciation and grammar as the most problematic areas. 4, my students, especially the boys, like conversations in pairs, debate, and role play during the speaking activity. As a result of my finding, I implemented the following guide as an action plan. 1, a class discussion. 2, audio materials for pronunciations and conversations. 3, work in pairs speaking activities. 4, debate. It took me 4 weeks to implement them in the class using the following tools: 1, focus group, and 2, questionnaire. As a teacher in the class, I've learned to change my method and strategies in teaching, especially when it comes to teaching activities, in order to carry all the students along. And I have to concentrate on grammar, pronunciation, and vocabulary. The students, in their own part, have learned a lot during this research, and they cannot pronounce words, some of the words the way they are supposed to pronounce, and then they have tried to speak confidently henceforth.
Hello, I'm Olatunde Ojerinde. I'm a teacher educator. I teach English as a general course at Sikira Aditono College of Education, Science and Technology. I've been using blended learning approach with my students for the past 2 years, teaching them on WhatsApp and face-to-face. We both agree to WhatsApp because of its suitability and accessibility to everyone. So after a year, I felt the need to explore the idea of learning about gender biases through online discussions on WhatsApp, as well as to understand the gaps in the attitude of female and male students towards learning English on WhatsApp. So I came up with 3 research questions. Number 1, what do female and male students say they prefer, learning English on WhatsApp or face-to-face? Number 2, what do female and male students do when learning English on WhatsApp? Number 3, what do my colleagues think of female and male students learning on WhatsApp? So I decided to use 3 research tools. Number 1, questionnaire to obtain my student view directly. Number 2, I use focus group to acquire the opinions of my colleagues who also teach on WhatsApp. And I also use classroom observation to have real-time evaluation of class activities when we have WhatsApp discussions. So my findings after the research reveal that female students interacted more than male students did while learning English on WhatsApp, although the 2 of them did not exhibit much differences in their attitude towards learning English on WhatsApp. However, female students and male students did say that they like learning on WhatsApp. I, however, discovered that female and male students in my class were not aware of gender issues in education. So because of that, I designed my actions to include: 1, I specifically instructed male students to respond to, ask questions, as well as make comment using voice note. And I introduced both female and male students to gender in education. So the actions were implemented over 4 WhatsApp sessions across 3 weeks, and I evaluated the actions using questionnaire again and classroom observation. The effect of the actions that I took included: 1, male students began to interact better using voice note alongside text, and I observed that male students use voice note only when explicitly instructed to do so, but at least they began to use voice note as well as text when they interact on WhatsApp. And beyond that, both of them actively engaged in discussion on the topic of gender in WhatsApp, gender in education on WhatsApp. 100% of them did express their desire to learn more about this topic. Then majority of them, 72% of the females and 85% of the male, agree that it is better to use gender neutral words instead of sexist words. Now, generally, with the actions taken, I now understand that there's a little difference in the attitude of female and male students towards learning English on WhatsApp. And the majority of them, 86% of the female and 85% of male, said they now have a better informed view of gender equality in society. Lastly, teaching gender education in the action phase of this research increased my awareness and sensitivity to gender issues in my classroom, as well as informed and enlightened my students as well on the topic of gender education. And I am pleased I introduced my students to gender education, and I hope to conduct more exploratory research in my class.
Good morning. My name is Ibrahim Ishaya. I'm from Nigeria. I conducted my research using students of St. Francis College, Zonkwa, averaging 18 years. The idea to conduct this research came up as a result of careful assessment of the learning resources that are used in the classroom. Now, I came up with 3 research questions. 1, what do my learners think about the way gender differences are presented in my lesson? 2, how are gender differences presented in the learning resources I currently use? Then 3, what do my colleagues think about my choice of learning resources on gender? So to answer these research questions, I use questionnaire, focus group, and then materials and resources. So after the data were collected and analyzed, the finding shows that female learners in the class are inactive. They are less confident, most especially in tasks that they are unfamiliar with. Then the result also shows that my female learners are inactive as a result of the fact that the male learners are placed on more prestigious jobs than the female learners. Then their achievement is low as a result of the learning resources the teacher currently use. As I said earlier, the reason for the motivation of this research. Then I came up with an action plan to incorporate mixed gender grouping through collaborative learning, and then use documentary pictures and charts that reflect the achievement of women in the society. Then I also use simple drama where I engage all my learners, both male and females, to take different roles, some as nurses, some as teachers, some as engineers in the class. So a 4-week implementation plan was carried out with the students. After the implementation plan, I administer a questionnaire and then use a focus group to elicit response from the students. Now, from the analysis, it shows that the female learners in their different groups became more active. Some acted as scribe and then group leaders and are willing to contribute to discussions in the groups. Then some of them again also became more interested and are willing to take jobs which ordinarily before now they couldn't have thought of engaging themselves in, like engineering, lawyers, and then nurses. Then in the research generally has exposed me as a person to the dynamisms of the classroom, and then the results also shows that the learning resources, if properly handled by the teachers, will boost the morale and then increase the learning ability of the students in the class.
Awesome, awesome. Fantastic work, Team Nigeria. It has been very informative and have provided great deal of insight on exploring gender in the African classroom. So now let's introduce Team Senegal, who will also share their own unique perspectives and experience on this topic.
Good morning, dear all. My name is Hujangom. I am teaching English in Darumurti in the north of Senegal in Louga. The subject of my action research is female students' participation in English club. The reason why I've chosen this topic is that when we have an English club meeting, boys seem more dynamic than girls, which is really a big challenge for me. So I started asking some exploratory questions. The first one was, what do I think about my female students' participation in English club? Second, what do my colleagues think about their female girls' participation in English club? And the last one, what do female students think about their participation in English club? So I started collecting data in order to find the causes. Through a questionnaire for the student and an interview to my colleague. What I discovered was that female students, they like English club. They want to participate in English club activities, but they are afraid and shy to take the floor in public. And also they have problem to pronounce words correctly. And whenever they try, boys are laughing at them. So I started doing some actions in order to make some change and help them overcome their problem, find a solution to their problem. I organized a community of practice through listening, and also I asked and invite some female girls, former members and current members of English Club who have participated in some national contests and international contests to come and share their success stories. After this, I evaluated the change I have been doing with female girls through a questionnaire and an observation for my colleague, because I wanted my colleague to come and observe during the activities. What I discovered was that the final results were that girls now, they have overcome their fear. They are able to make presentation in class, overcoming their shyness. There are even some who attested that they are now able to speak in public. 12 out of 15 students with whom I was working in this project indicated that the activity we have been doing had helped them a lot work their pronunciation. And I realized and recognized that error is human and they are willing to try to overcome their shyness. So I really appreciate this action research project and I have learned a lot from it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
My name is Mr. Isa Tijan Tunkara. I live in Dakar, the capital city of Senegal. I'm a teacher of English in the region named Louga. Louga is located in the northwestern part of Senegal. And it's this region exactly I'm teaching in a small village named Sakal. In Sakal, we have a higher school where I have been teaching for 12 years now. In my classes, I have students aged between 15 and 20 years old, and most of students are girls. My research topic is the participation of female students in classroom activities. To do this topic, I use the following exploratory research questions. First, what do I think about female participation in classroom activities? Second, what activities do my female students prefer to participate in more in classroom? And third, what do my colleagues think about female students' participation in class? To answer these exploratory questions, I will use research tools such as reflective journal, interview, and focus group. After having used this tool to collect the data, I found that most of female students do not participate in class because of shyness. Others say that they do not participate because they are inferior in terms of number. As my colleague, they think that the lack of participation of female students is mainly due to the lack of consideration in the part of the teacher. And I think that they do not participate because they do not have the adequate vocab items that permit them to express themselves in classes. And they are a little bit dominated by their male classmates. From these findings, the best strategy used for implementation is think pair activity. And to implement this strategy, we use a reading comprehension lesson in which we learn female role model in Senegal. And in this lesson, there are some activities that encourage them to work in pairs and try to share their findings with their peers. The tools used to evaluate are focus group interview and reflective journal. This research shows that when teachers are sensitive to the specific needs of girls and use strategies such as think, pair, share activities, female students are more confident, they participate more in class, and they feel more interested in the activities conducted in class.
Hello everyone, my name is Babakar Gay Diouf. I live in Senegal, West Africa. I'm a teacher of English at Mbam Junior High School, and most of my students are aged between 15 and 16 years. I had noticed that my female students in grade 4 had some difficulties as far as the classroom activities were concerned. So I decided, with the help of the British Council, to conduct a research project which were entitled Improving Female Students' Performance in Grade 4. So for that, I worked with three questions, exploratory questions. The first one was, what do I think about female students' performance in grade 4? Second, what do female students think about their performance in grade 4? And the last one was, what do my colleagues think about female students' performance? So I use three strategies such as reflective journal, second, a focus group interview, and the last one was an interview with my colleagues. After conducting this data analysis with the 3 strategies, I have noticed also that one category of my students are afraid to take the floor, and others are shy because of boys' jokes. And the last category were students, female students, who need motivational activities. For that, I had a very useful action plan, which consisted in co-teaching with female students, and they liked it a lot. The second one was pre-teaching vocabulary by using also games, guessing games, word race, dictation race, and after do some post activities like discussion, etc. So to evaluate these strategies, I invited a colleague to come and see how the activities were implemented, and that's what we call peer observation and focus group with students. And that was the end of this research project. And to say that it was very useful for students, they started participating, they started raising their hands. As you can see in videos and pictures and posters, they were raising their hands. They were even defeating some male students in games, in some activities like the guessing games, and they become, as could attest the information we got, they said that it was very, very important because they become strong again. So thank you very much, the British Council, for giving us this opportunity and to be able to help female students. And I hope that all the teachers in Senegal, in Africa, all around the world will follow this example to help female students to get strong again and become among leaders of tomorrow.
My name is Musangom. I am a teacher of English in Senegal in the secondary schools, and my students are between 12 and 17 years old. I decided to conduct this research about girls' passivity in the classroom because I noticed that in my classroom, especially my third grade students, girls are not participating properly. They are not doing as boys do. So to conduct this research, I based it on 4 questions. The first question was what I mean really by girls' passivity. The second question was how do girls participate in the classroom activities? The third question was what the students themselves think of their participation in the classroom activities. And the last question was what the colleagues think of the girls' participation. And now to answer all these questions, I wanted to design 4 tools. A reflective journal that I had to answer, and an observation session with a colleague who come in my class and observe what I'm doing, and a questionnaire that I designed for students, female students, and the last one was an interview with colleagues who are in the school and who are intervening with the same students. And now, after collecting data and analyze all the data, I discovered that girls are more observers than actors in the classroom activities. They rarely raise their hand to participate. And another problem was that the majority of the girls worked alone. They didn't participate in work groups or peer groups, and it was a problem that I needed to solve. And now to solve it, I designed an action plan that I implemented during four weeks. And the action plan was a reading session, a reading lesson on topic about gender equality. So during the pre-reading, I organized them in order to be in groups, sometimes in pairs, and to work together to exchange and etc. And after the reading session, I mean the post-reading, so students themselves, girls as well as boys, do some presentations and some dialogues about gender, on the topic of gender. So after implementing this, I needed to evaluate the impact of that implementing. And I did that evaluation through a reflective journal, again, observation, and a focus group interview with the students. And now, after all of this, I can say that the results I got was really positive, because my action plan improved and enabled me to address the problem I identified with my learners. And my female learners also were confident enough. They strongly believed that they could be as active as boys. And I believe that when applied consistently and longer, the result would even be better. I can say finally that I learned that providing opportunities for students to speak with their peers enable them practice in a friendly environment, making them more confident. As a teacher, I can say I should design more activities that allow for collaboration.
My name is Marjolaine de Seconda Napel. I am a teacher of English in Alicete Jata Senior High School in Usui. Usui is a department of Ziguinchor, and Ziguinchor is located in the southern part of Senegal. My research focus is my female students' lack of interest in classroom activities. And here are my exploratory research questions. Number one, what do I mean by my female students' lack of interest in classroom activities? Number two, how do my female students participate in classroom activities? Number three, what do my colleagues think about my female students' lack of interest in classroom activities? Number four, what do my female students think about their own lack of interest in classroom activities? To answer to these questions, I have used research tools such as reflective journal, peer observation, and questionnaire. After my data collection, I have discovered that my female students were passive during the activities because they were bullied by their male peers while they're participating in class. Something else I have discovered is that they prefer and feel more at ease while they're working in groups, collaborating with their other peers. To figure out my female students' issues about participation, I use Think, Pair, Share strategy through a listening comprehension lesson. In which I dealt with Senegalese female icons. And we also did motivating activities that brought my students to work together with their peers, to collaborate, to exchange, and to express themselves in front of them. With regard to my evaluation tools, I used reflective journal, peer observation, and focus group interviews. From this research, I learned that using Think, Pair, Share activity can be very impactful on our students' participation. And this helped my students, my female students especially, it helped them build their own self-confidence. It helped them better themselves and be more at ease while they're exchanging, while they're sharing with their peers. It also helped them earn some skills, some social skills, such as the fact of being able to connect with the other students.
Thanks very much. I'm going to done.
You have feedback, Steve, but I can help you. Can I help you introduce the next group? Sure. And so thank you very much for all the for all the teachers from Senegal. They're all there. The 4 of them are there. Could you wave to everybody who is so impressed with your work? It was really interesting to listen to your projects. So now we are going to continue with the group of teachers. These are 4 teachers that conducted the research in Sudan. So we are going to give the room to them.
Hello everyone, my name is Mayada Rabir Jad Karim. I am from Sudan. I am English teacher at Kibir International Schools. I am teaching the levels from 9 to 12 years old. And in my school there and in my journey, there was many situations and many problems they have faced. The most important thing and the thing they have with the spotlight on it, which is less female participation in the classrooms. So this was my situation. So according to this situation, I have started and thinking and asking myself many questions to solve my situation. So the situation they have created, the first one, which is, or the question they have created, the first one, how often do my female students participate in the class? The second one, what do my female students think of their participation in the class? The third one, what strategies do I use to let my female students participate in the class? So to apply these questions, I have searched about many methods to answer my questions. And I have found about just only 2 methods that can suit my questions, my situation. The first one, which is questionnaire, and I apply this method by asking my learners and my students questions about the situation. The second one, which is classroom observation, I apply this method by asking myself and my other teacher, here my colleague, questions about my situation. So after that, according to the method and according to the situation, I apply this method just only one time. So I have found many findings. The first finding was my learners or my female students sometimes participate in the class when I give them tasks other than speaking tasks. The second one, most of female students feel shy, therefore do not participate in the class, and they have lack of confidence, they are afraid to commit a mistake, and so on. Also, I conducted competition and give my female students monthly reward for their participation, and give them give them a writing task and let them design a poster, and also give them verbal piece of advice. So according to these findings, I have decided to make changes. So the first change that I want to make, which is I will assign a conversation partner to my shy students in every speaking activity. The second one, I will conduct small group activities. The third one, which is I'm going to give my shy students roles during the lessons. Such as collecting copybooks and helping me in doing attendance and so on to raise their confidence. Also, I'm going to appoint a confident female as a leader to raise their confidence. So to sum up with my situation, from the experience and from the situation that I have faced, so sometimes I have learned that sometimes we have to change and we have to follow to change the strategy that we follow, and we have to use different techniques, different way of teaching to solve the situation that we faced. And thank you.
Hi, I am Sarah. I am from Sudan. I work as teacher in London International School, in Khartoum North, Bahri. I am a teacher of the 3rd grade of primary school. They are about 8 and 9 years old. I chose this work in my research as the result of the difficulty of teaching classes and the lack of interaction between male and female students. To solve this problem, I put questions to facilitate the search process. I put 4 questions. Question number 1, what do my students think about sharing information with the student from the opposite sex? Question number 2, what happens when my male and female student share information with the opposite sex? Number 3, what activity do I do in the class to encourage my students to share information with the students of the opposite sex? Last question, number 4, why is interaction between male and female students important to me? I have collected data to help answer my questions in the following way: classroom observation, questionnaire, and reflective journal. Then I made an action plan to clearly explore the result, divide the lesson into sessions, explain to them the importance of sharing information with the opposite sex. And I use poster to reinforce this is at the beginning of the lesson, then divide them into mixed group in discussion and debate activity that was the middle of the lesson. And last step, ask them at the beginning of the lesson to work together and share information. And set time in each lesson to teach them communication skills and skills of listening to each other, and maintaining eye contact. That was the end of the lesson. The action I carried out made the majority of my students more aware of this importance of sharing and working with the opposite sex students. They also felt comfortable and motivated to share information. It also helped my students to develop their communication skills and their working together. Has opposite effect on the performance. Moreover, it helped me to understand the importance of sharing information with my students. Since their participation had improved, it also enabled me to motivate my students to share with the opposite sex peers and hence reduce gender bias.
Hello, my name is Amina Hussein Umar from Sudan, English language teacher at British Accreditation Institute. My research is carried out with female students who are adult in pre-intermediate level. The research is originate from the idea of the lack of participation of female students in the speaking activity. The research is carried out to address the following question: what do I expect from female student engagement in speaking activity? What do female students think about the speaking activity? And how do my female students participate in speaking activity? I use questionnaire and reflective journal and classroom observation to analyze this question. The result from this analysis, my female students, they don't feel motivated to speak in class because they lack vocabulary and pronunciation. They also feel worried about making mistakes. I don't give much attention to the newly learned vocabulary and pronouncing them. My female students are shy, inactive, and not interested in speaking activity. The action plan was the pre-teaching videos of inspiring female speaker about the journey of learning English language. I'm teaching topics that interest my female student, and listening to an audio that covers the topic and the newly learned vocabulary, assigning all those inactive students as a group leader. We use peer observation and questionnaire, with most of the questions are open-ended questions to evaluate this result. Then we found that 92% of the female students said they are motivated and guided by watching inspiring videos before lesson, and 78% of the female students indicate that they are able to find their role model and they are able to speak English confidently. 100% of the female students were able to use the newly learned vocabulary in controlled practice tasks because the newly learned vocabulary are covered before lessons. And 99 indicated that providing glossary with the transcript made it easy for them and develop their ability to learn new vocabulary. 100% of my female students they said that studying the topic that interests them made it easy for them to talk about because this topic they used to talk on it in their mother tongue. And 94% they said that they will feel less unconfident when they speak about topic that they practice and talk about it in their mother tongue. However, one student said she's still struggling in case that she's the one that who has selected the topic, and she said it can be a social anxiety. The action plan has improved and enabled me to address the issues identified with my female student, and most of my female students feel motivated to speak English when they watch other female speak. And listening to a native speaker has helped them to pronounce correctly and speak with confidence using the newly learned vocabulary. And my inactive and shy students feel motivated and represented when they interact with the others.
Hi, my name is Omar Jibril. I'm from Sudan. I'm an English teacher, the founder and the academic manager of Everlasting Storm Training Institute. I teach students who are between 18 to 30 how to communicate using English language. And due to my daily observation as a teacher, my male and female students don't sit together and they only sit by grouping themselves as males and females. And that made me very inquisitive, which required an exploratory action research. In order to understand the matter deeply, I had to create 3 essential questions. Firstly, why do I sit male and female students together? Secondly, what do my male and female students think about the classroom seating? Lastly, how do my colleagues handle the classroom seating? In an attempt to tackle these intrinsic queries, I used 3 methods of data collection: reflective journal, which is my own opinion, questionnaire, my students' perspective, and an interview, my colleagues' points of view. There were 20 participants in the class in addition to 5 teachers. After an incredible hard work, I found out that my male and female students don't sit together isn't because of stereotypical issues and culture as I expected. So, to my greatest surprise, my male and female students' lack of motivation towards sitting together is due to teachers not paying attention to gender equality in education related to seating. So I moved on after exploring the situation to a new phase, and I made an action plan and began to implement it, which took 3 weeks consecutively. My action plan included many activities. Initially, I divided my male and female students into mixed groups, and I gave them topics and tasks that they did together. I also asked them to do reading topics in addition to discussions about the cons and pros of sitting together, which were meant to aware students about the issue. I also created activities that encourage them to sit and work together, such as competitions and peer presentations. In order to evaluate the impact of my action plan, I had to use peer observation, which I was being observed by my colleagues, and questionnaire, which was done by the participants. I had enough clue that peer presentation is the most valuable, effective method which could support learners not solely to sit together and work together, but also cultivate sportsmanship. The activities I applied to my male and female students to sit and work together enlightened me and provided me with deep knowledge of the situation. Additionally, I learned the essence of sitting and working together. I also discovered that learners usually react positively when they are asked or when they are motivated by their teachers to sit together. I would also say my action plan enhanced and enabled me to address the issues and understand gender equality in education better. Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Mayada. Thank you, British Council Sudan. And thank you, my dear colleagues.
All right.
There is feedback from you, Steve. I'm going to just try to move along to the Q&A session. Just let me know if you need any help. Are you okay to continue?
Yes, could you just get started?
Sure.
Find a spot.
No problem. So thank you to all the presenters. Some of them are here, most of them are here. In fact, I can see Dorcas there, I can see Hamed, I can see Olatunde, I can see the group from Senegal, I can see Rashidat, Christiana is there. Thank you very much to all of you that are that just contributed to these such a difficult, challenging issue, which has to do with gender education, gender issues, stereotypes, stereotype materials. And it's been very challenging for me because I've received so many questions. Usually there is these situations when you receive one or two and that's it. We have received about 20 questions or more. So I've been trying to compile all those questions so that we can address them here, okay? There are some questions that are for any of us, so you can feel more than comfortable to volunteer and answer that question. And some of the questions have been addressed to certain researchers. So we have some time for that. How long do we have, Steve?
We have about 5 to 10 minutes to.
Oh wow! So
yeah,
let's get started and try to address some of those questions. First, because it could be useful for everybody, I'm going to maybe mention the questions that are for general interest, because there are some questions that have been raised for everybody based on the topic. And in any case, I have been sharing the questions with the specific researchers. So I would like for those facilitating the sessions in Sudan, in Senegal, and in Ethiopia to maybe check the chat box, because I've been sharing the questions with you. So maybe they could be answered by researchers themselves in the Q&A box. So I would really appreciate that. So maybe we keep the conversation general now. Okay, so I think I'm going to address two key questions that have been addressed for everybody. And the question is, are there significant roles that the immediate culture of the learner play in the teaching learning activities? And similarly, could the teacher's techniques constitute a major factor? Okay, so I'm going to repeat the question meanwhile you are thinking, and then you can volunteer to answer. So it is, are there significant roles that the immediate culture of the learner play in the teaching learning activities? And similarly, Could the teacher's technique constitute a major factor? That question is from Dr. Bello. Anybody? Rashidat, would you like to share your views on that question?
Yes, thank you very much, Paula, and everybody here. I did try to answer a little bit. I believe that the culture does affect teaching and learning activities, because sometimes as a teacher, you tend to want to bend to whatever is the norm of the society that you're in. However, I believe that the teacher's techniques play an even greater role. So if you as a teacher do not agree with what the norm is, you have a great power to be able to change it. You can actually influence the children. Now, as teachers, we don't want to go against people's beliefs, but we have ways that we can subtly and gently tell them why we feel that this technique is not negative or negating their belief. Or we can try to moderate our techniques that while we're able to achieve equity and equality, we're still respecting the customs, the religions, the traditions of wherever it is that we're teaching. So yes, the immediate culture does play a role, because the learners sometimes have a feeling when you present an activity. But if you as a teacher are able to identify their concerns and you're able to address those concerns, then we can play a great role to achieving equity in the classroom. Thank you.
Thank you, Rashidat, for that answer. That seems to be, that seems to come with the idea of awareness, of being aware that that is a situation, and you as a teacher being aware of the huge impact that you can have on creating change, promoting change. And this is kind of what you've been presenting, how all of you, to a degree, have started this change in your classroom, first noticing this and started changing situations by, I said, all the list of activities, a series of activities that you have shared with us. Another question that came up for everybody, and I thought it was very interesting, it said, away from classroom and other learning activities, I have observed that students have gender-specific games and activities. How can we encourage students to be more adventurous and assertive in diverse roles and out of the classroom activities? I think that relates maybe to Hamid's research in a way, doesn't it, Hamid? Are you able to?
Come again with the question, please.
Do you want me to repeat it? No problem.
Yeah,
This is away from classroom and other learning activities. I have observed that students have gender-specific games and activities. How can we encourage students to be more adventurous and assertive in diverse roles and out of classroom activities?
Okay, yeah, it's pertaining to what I did during my research. In the textbook I used during my in my classroom, I discovered that there were gender-specific games, like skipping for girls, then racing for females. Skipping for girls, then racing for males, for the boys. So we, as a teacher, you need to understand that every student needs to be carried along in whatever you do or whatever topic you teach. So when I saw the picture and the content of the exercise in the textbook, I need to bring the students along and then let them understand that there is no gender-based game. So I printed some pictures about some football players, and then I showed them to them that, oh, you can see we have male football players and we also have female football players. And then I showed them some other activities that we've seen a lot of females participating in. So as a teacher, you can get resources online, or you can get resource person to address the gender-based games that these students think, oh, it's for a particular gender. I think, for example, skipping, you can bring up a male person, a male resource person who has done who has done well in skipping or in one gender-based game into the classroom, or let's say football playing, you can bring up a female footballer to the class to let the student know that, oh, football is for both gender and not for the males alone. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Hamid. So this all has to do with stereotypes that have been maybe pervasive in society and have been encouraged in a way. And so we are just trying to break a little bit of those stereotypes of very specific roles and activities that are for certain genders. Steve, do we have time for one more question, or we are
maybe we
ready?
can wrap up. Maybe we can wrap up. And eventually inviting everyone to join the English Connects Telegram community practice group, where we can continue the conversation around gender equity and then talk about more of these challenges with other teachers across Sub-Saharan Africa.
Thank you. I would like to, because I didn't have the time to do it today, I can see the 3 researchers from Ethiopia here. Could you just wave? I can see you there. Yeah, there you are. I told you before, you need to get used to being famous now. So let's see how you will manage that. So thank you very much for all the researchers for your amazing work. You have definitely contributed to an interesting, challenging area, which is gender education. And thank you to the British Council for supporting these teachers, for supporting this research to be carried out and to contribute to the knowledge of this area. So thank you for those viewers as well. So from me, just a big thank you and see you next time.
All right, awesome. Thanks everyone. Thanks to all our presenters today for sharing their insights on the topic of gender. We hope that the webinar has provided you useful information and inspiration to continue working towards more inclusivity and equitable classrooms. Now, before we end, obviously, we'd like to take a moment to express our gratitude to Paula and the team of mentors who worked hard with the group researchers throughout the project. Your guidance and support have been valuable, and we couldn't achieve this without you. So thanks a lot. Thanks for all our participants today for joining us and for your engagement, the questions that you've been able to ask. Unfortunately, we can't answer all the questions today, but your comments have been very greatly appreciated. Finally,
thank you to the mentors as well. Sorry,
yes,
Steve. Thank you to the mentors as well, Mayada, Ali, Teresa, and Sarah.
Absolutely, I've actually mentioned them. Absolutely. Thanks for the support. Just a final note that the recording of the webinar will be available on our website, Teach English Africa. We'll be sharing a link for you to actually view via email. We hope to see you next time. Thanks again, and looking forward to seeing you at our future events. Goodbye. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.